Good morning. Welcome to the conversation on TOS Television Network. It's the 3rd day of May 2021. Another Monday morning from here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. My name is Adesuwa Osuyi.
And my name is Merciful Ajinuma. Good morning. Good morning, Adesuwa.
Good morning, Merciful. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Happy New Month. Is it too late to say that?
Nah, it's just the 3rd day, so it's okay.
Of course, and it's our first, episode.
Yeah, it's the first in the month of May, so yeah. Happy New Month to you guys as well. All right, before we kickstart the show proper, here is the quote of the day. Yes, Pablo Picasso there with some deep mind-running motivation. So basically, if you can conceive it, it's achievable. If you can conceive it, you can make it real. It can happen. So there's nothing that cannot happen. Are you of that opinion too?
I am. But, saying everything you can imagine is real. I think it's not really what I would like to hear. What I would like to hear is anything you can imagine and you work towards can be real because you actualize it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because I've imagined you have no idea how my imaginations work.
No, so basically, I think it's just saying if you can imagine it, then it's real. So it's not left for you to make it happen, to work towards it. But as long as your mind can conceive it, then it's real.
So they should consider me in the quote to say, try and imagine things that can be real.
Well, okay. All right, we move straight into developments across Africa, starting from the Republic of Chad, where the African Union Commission and the AU Peace and Security Council are undertaking a 7-day fact-finding mission to the Republic of Chad from 29th of April to 6th of May 2021. The fact-finding mission team that arrived in N'Djamena, Chad's capital city, on Thursday is to assess the situation in the country and examine ways of a speedy return to democratic rule. Also, the fact-finding mission is expected to reaffirm the solidarity of the AU with the government and people of Chad, as well as the unwavering commitment to support its transition process.
And moving straight up to Namibia, where the government linked 84 doctors to fraudulent activities. The Ministry of Finance in Namibia has identified a list of 84 doctors accused of stealing millions of dollars through the government's medical aid scheme. And the ministry has launched a civil action against the doctors and has threatened to institute criminal charges against the alleged culprit. And this was contained in a yet-to-be-published forensic report. The doctors were accused of fraud and abuse of the Public Service Employee Medical Aid Scheme.
African corruption. Amazing. All right, moving over to South Africa, where the South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa, has signed the Auditing Profession Amendment Act into law, which is a critical tool in the fight against state and corporate capture and corruption. According to TOS News, the bill, which gives greater power to the Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors, also gives the board the power to subpoena any person to appear before the committee or panel concerned and provides requested information. Trade Federation welcomed the move, noting that auditors have a legal and fiduciary duty to ensure good governance in both the public and private sectors.
That's a good step, towards combating corruption, trying to put a check, checkmating the activities, the auditing act and everything. I think that's really something.
To achieve transparency.
Yeah, transparency and accountability. And I think every
important.
other, African country should follow suit.
Emulate that.
Do something
All right.
like that.
That's so much you can take on development across Africa this morning. We're bringing you COVID-19 updates from across Africa right now.
TOS TV Network mobile app is now available. You can now catch up on our breaking news, stream our programs live, watch out for the latest update on sports and politics as they unfold. You can also get notifications for our upcoming programs and events. All these on our TOS TV Network mobile app, available on Apple Store and Google Play Store. TOS TV News from Africa by Africans.
Being a journalist means in-depth analysis that unravels hidden truths, that question the status quo and fact-checks government.
These criminal elements hiding under the cloak of surveillance contractors are the APC elements.
Do you have facts to prove that? Being a journalist means waking up every day with a burning desire for peace, equity, and justice for all citizens.
We're being told that the choice you have is to take the lesser of two evils.
It means patriotism via the prism of objectivity and accountability. It means giving my platform to the masses to discuss issues that matter to them.
Some of them, if they bring budget, like the budget they look. Some of them sleep. They're going to ask how much you are on. I have it.
Thereby shaping government policies and laws. My name is Osasu Igbenegbu, and I am the People's Journalist.
Welcome back to the conversation showing on your digital first Pan-African news network, 2S Television. Don't forget you can always be a part of the show by following us across all our social media platforms at TOS TV Network on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, live stream our program on our website, www.tostvnetwork.com, and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss out on amazing content. Happy Workers' Day to Nigerians, celebrating the Workers' Day in the Federal Capital Territory, especially in Abuja here where we have the national holiday. Now we dive straight into a newspaper review segment of the show, beginning from Blueprint. And the first header there says, food scarcity unemployment persists as banking loan hits 20.5 trillion naira. That particular story can be found on page 34 of the Blueprint newspaper. The editorial of the day is Blueprint celebrating a decade of purposeful journalism, and that can be found on page 12 of the newspaper. Hoodlums raise Akwa Ibom LG INEC office, that can be found on page 10. And the very conspicuous headline there is talking about Kaduna local government polls. Anxiety as APC disqualifies Algon chair, 37 others after test. We have 3 riders, and the first is 75 of 115, pass aptitude, 2 disqualified over anti-party activities. And the second, coming from the APC chair, says, it's no longer business as usual. And we have Okechukwu saying, fire me, others inciting Nigerians against party. All of that can be found on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper. And we have Malagi at 55, my greatest fulfillment is seeing Blueprint newspaper afloat, coming from a publisher. And why Northern elites must support Medium, coming from Dan Beery. And Mohammed Idris at 55, Blueprint at 10. That can be found on page 25. Then we see gunmen killing Kogi pension commissioner, abducting LG chair, others. And that can be found on page 5. The writer says, please intercept 753 GPMG, 2 AK-47, others in Abakaliki. And I'm talking about freedom of the press, irreducible minimum in a democracy. That's coming from President Muhammadu Buhari. It says freedom of press, irreducible minimum in a democracy. And COVID-19 federal government stopped travelers entry from India, Brazil, Turkey. And that can be found on page 5. Buhari, Kogi, Gombe, Niger governors, NUJ eulogize Kakaki Nupe at 55. And that can be found on page 6 and 14. And the last headline there says, FCT not under attack by terrorists, say police. And that can be found on page 22 of the Blueprint newspaper.
Yeah, and I think that's some news to our lady first of everyone in the FCT who's thinking, look, if the Boko Haram terrorists are in Niger State, then it looks like we're not safe. But yeah, it's good to know that.
The police are assuring,
assuring that FCT is now under attack. Okay, moving over to the Business Day newspaper, starting from the very top, where you have the Business Day Market Monitor right there, and then to the very, main headline on the Business Day newspaper: curious case of less viable states consuming more petrol. That story is continued on page 31 of the Business Day. Then there's the insurers see insecurity dimming growth prospect as liability soars. And then inside the Business Day newspaper, ABC Health, ECA partner to improve health in Africa. That's on page 6 of the Business Day. And the last headline on Business Day newspaper this morning says separatism and its contradiction. That is on page 30 of the Business Day.
And the very last newspaper for the newspaper segment of the show this morning is the Daily Times. Beginning from the very top, GT Bank to announce major board changes. And that can be found on page 4 of the Daily Times. The very conspicuous headline there says power firms for sale. Consumers to pay higher tariffs from July. That's on 2021. And that can be found on page 2. Just under the picture of the day where we see some sort of masquerade, I think commemorating the Anambra airport. We see press freedom. Buhari reaffirms commitment to press freedom, urges respect for ethics. And that story can be found on page 3. Talking about COVID-19, federal government bans India, Brazil, Turkey visitors from entering Nigeria. And that can be found on page 5. And the very last headline there, talking about First Bank, says Honeywell Group explains financial relationship with First Bank, says debts are being served. And that can be found on page 2 of the Daily Times newspaper. I think it's a very good one for Anambra State, talking about
actually.
an airport. People have always been saying, look, when do we have an airport in Anambra? There, because we had one in Enugu, And it was really something, to see, because people were posting things on social media. Like, wow, people can definitely now travel by air. And we had their first test run, flight yesterday, and it was really good.
All right. Okay, with that, it's a wrap on the newspaper headline segment of the conversation this morning. So we're going to go on a break now. When we come back, we'll be taking you on the big story.
Welcome back to The Conversation, showing on your digital first Pan-African news network, 2S Television. Don't forget, you can always be a part of it by following us across all our social media handles at TOS TV Network on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, live stream the program on our website, www.tostvnetwork.com. And don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube so you do not miss out on our amazing content. It's the big story segment, the crux of the conversation. And this morning, we start with May 1st, the public holiday. You see, May 1st is the International Labour Day. The day is dedicated to workers and labourers across the world, and it celebrates and encourages them to be aware of their rights. In Nigeria, the day is observed by conducting protests and marches for the rights of workers to be improved, as well as save them from exploitation and harsh working environment. Other key demands of Nigeria's organized labor include an increase as well as implementation of the national minimum wage, provision of welfare packages to cushion the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic for Nigerian workers, both in the public and private sectors. Now, complete payment of pension and gratuity of retired workers, among others. In the last few years, the Nigerian government and the organized labor has continually been at loggerheads on some occasions. A nationwide strike action, nationwide protest, and even an outright trade of words has characterized their encounters. From a continuous call to action to government inability to fulfill its end of the bargain, the Nigerian labor force has experienced one hell of a bumpy ride in the last 6 years. With the prevalence of the coronavirus pandemic, which took the world by storm late 2019, to the rising cases of security breaches, which has continued to spread across the nation, Nigerian workers are faced with the unpalatable choices of staying at home to avoid contracting the virus, yet risk losing their source of sustenance, or go to work and risk falling prey to criminals on the loose. Joining us to discuss more on these issues is Comrade Abiodun Ozurumba. You're welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, before we delve into the conversation, Please see some excerpt from the Workers' Day 2021 celebration.
We moved the national minimum wage from 18,000 naira per month to 30,000 naira per month. It is an irreducible flaw and even a social protection mechanism. Therefore, we expect states and people in the private sector to comply. Amendment or trying to expunge that law or trying to bring that law into the concurrent list of legislation will not work, because it will go against the principles of the various conventions of that law which Nigeria has adopted and is the international global practice. So as Ministry of Labour, we identify with you and we'll go all the way with you to make sure that the issue of national minimum wage is still retained in the country's exclusive legislative base of the Federation.
It is unfortunate and a terrible injustice to the memory of Nigerian founding fathers that virtually every part of Nigeria have been engulfed by one form of security challenge or the other. In the north, we are aware the issue of Boko Haram in the northeast is still very prevalent. In the northwest, there is the challenge of rural banditry and kidnapping for ransom. In the north central, there is the challenge of farmer and pastoralist clashes. In the south-south, armed militia still operate in the mangroves, engage in all manner of economic sabotage. In the southwest and southeast, local militia are filling the vacuum created by the absence of states and are heating up the polity with ethno-religious rhetorics. In the midst of this confusion, Nigerians are asking, where is the state? Many Nigerians understand the grave danger of surrendering our sovereignty to a mob of violence and nondescript non-state actors. Already, the numbers are piling up as humanitarian carnage left in the wakes of medium to high intensive conflict continues to rise. Workers are a major target. So many teachers, health workers, agri and food chain workers have either been kidnapped or killed. So many working families have had their lives of their breadwinners brutally cut off, leaving behind open wounds that could be the source for another cycle of counter-violence. Just as we did at the Peace Summit, we ask Nigerian security apparatus to continue to do more.
Now, Comrade Abiodun Ozurumba, right here with us, is the president of the Voice of Nigeria chapter and public relations officer, FCT chapter of the Senior Staff Association of Statutory Corporations and Government-Owned Companies. Once again, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Good, good. Before we dive, straight into everything, first of all, we've heard the concerns of the organized labor, COVID-19 and insecurity. Now, these are major problems that we've always had to deal with. And according to the NLC president, 27 million Nigerians have been thrown into poverty as a result of the pandemic alone. What seems to be the hope of the average Nigerian worker?
Okay, I would like to start this way. My name is Abiodun Ozurumba, and I am the president, Voice of Nigeria branch, not chapter.
Okay. Apologies for that.
PRO, FCT chapter. Yeah, because each great union have their type of designations. Okay, so we're quite different from NLC or other unions.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, talking about the hope for Nigerians, of course, we all know that the emergence of COVID-19 and the terrifying security challenges we're battling with now is something to worry about. And of course, it has brought untold hardship on Nigerians, especially the Nigerian workers, the backbone of the Nigerian economy. And you see all Nigerian workers trying to align with the new norm. And then what is this new norm? For level 12s, grade level 12s below, they've been working from home. While level 13 and above, mostly management staff, are in their offices. The risk, like you mentioned, of going to the office, of interacting with people from different homes, having entered different transportation, and then you work closely together. We are here now, we are not on nose mask. So how do you manage that? And you have to fend for yourself because the government will not give you nose mask. The government will not provide for you the hand sanitizers. In fact, the NCDC had said you should observe COVID-19 protocols. How? By yourself. Wash your hands as many times as possible. Cover your nose. Do this, do that. But what have they done to help the Nigerian workers in ensuring that they undergo or take closely look or embrace the protocols? What did you have to do? Nothing. So you're on your own, and from your mid-year salary, you are asked to buy this and that for the government's work. But personally, I have to tell you that there is hope for the Nigerian workers.
Talking about hope for the Nigerian workers, I do know that the government over time has come out to say they're going to implement so many strategies you talk about. They've been in talk with maybe the labour workers, labour congresses, you know, to help cushion the effect of both the pandemic and the insecurity on Nigerian workers. So looking at it from 2019 when the pandemic hit, has there been any improvement so far, you know, the plight of Nigerian workers?
Not really.
None at all?
Not really.
Okay.
There had been some. For example, I'm not sure it really came from the federal government, but the unions provided cushioning effects for their members.
Okay.
For example, the SASGOG, the union I belong to, we provided food items to some of our workers. We assisted. I made nose mask for the entire workforce of my own members in Voice of Nigeria. So, of course, the unions did their bit. Maybe the interventions from government, when you talk about the opportunity to now farm, which is very funny. You know, you now leave your government work. That is the only opportunity for a government worker outside government work. You can do farming. You cannot be in another employment, even while working at home. So if people, Nigerian workers embrace farming, and they can feed their primary constituencies, their nuclear families, and there may be a little of family and friends around them, then we can say they have also added to the Nigerian economy, haven't they?
Yes.
Yes. So there are opportunities out there, but it's not directly from the federal government. Those I know, for example, is like the mass housing. Well, is that what we need right now?
Okay.
Talking about the opportunities and what the federal government have to do and everything, how would you rate the government implementation of the minimum wage since its approval?
For the federal government workers, it's been implemented. Even though in various percentages, some are on 14, some are on 16%, some got 22%. But for those in the states, we want most of the state governors to please look into minimum wage for the workers. Like Ondo State, where the minimum wage issue is being tackled. Of course, we have a governor that is interacting with us, but how long will this take? Especially as your counterparts are enjoying it. Your counterparts at the federal level. You know, you won't feel so good. And you know, the salaries are like the motivational tool or motivation for greater work. In fact, why will you hold the wages of a worker? So it's quite important that the state governors all come together and ensure that Nigerian workers are paid as our due.
Okay. Okay, looking at that, let's look at the struggle, you know, the labor struggle, say, from 10 years back. How satisfied are you with, you know, government's response to improving the welfare of workers? Would you say you're satisfied, or would you say there's still so much to be done? How would you rate it, looking at it from 10 years ago until now?
Government is continuing. But you have a situation where a lot of government agencies, the government, when they change guard, do not continue with the previous agreements. There had been promises, and then it's as if you come back to the table again to look at what has been done.
Start afresh.
Like starting afresh. So it's a huge challenge of its own. But more importantly, the issues that I think the government needs to address immediately, which we have an a long run effect on Nigerian workers, is managing our electricity, managing our PMS. Almost every worker wants to buy fuel, either for your generator, and that is if electricity is not there. But if the electricity is there, then we will need PMS for the generator. And then we can use the government vehicles. But most of us want to drive our personal vehicles. So you need fuel for that. If it's affordable, then you can get to the office on time. And I tell you, it's unfortunate. A few years ago, probably 3 years ago, a bag of rice was 12,000. Today it's 31,000. The salary 3 years ago is the same salary you're still getting.
And inflation has risen. Prices of stocks
inflation is so high.
It now begs the question, how do workers cope? Because you're having the prices of product, you know, food and everything.
But it's not reflecting in your
the
take-home.
same salary. And still, they need to go to work and everything. The question still remains, how do they cope?
You have to cut your coat according to your size. When issues like in the past, we have had all sorts of will I call them challenges, whereby suddenly there's inflation, and then you have to manage yourself. So if you've been taking 10 cups of gari, for example, the cassava flakes, then you have to cut it to 6. It's unfortunate. But I tell you, it's biting really hard on the Nigerian workers. And we're not happy. We are not happy. And when staff are not happy, it will certainly affect
their productivity. So where do we go from here, really?
For me, we must not lose hope. When we lose hope, even our children, our grandchildren, we don't have something to hold on to look forward to. We must not lose hope. We must, you and I, in our little corners, do our very best. Collectively, we come together and ensure that Nigeria does not go desolate.
Thank you so much. It's been quite a huge pleasure having you on the show this morning. Thank you so much, really. It's been insightful. It
is actually, because I mean, we're all workers, so we can actually relate to a lot of the things that she spoke about.
All right, thank you for joining us. We'll go on a quick break now. When we return, we'll continue with the show, the conversation. Do stay.
Welcome back. As you'd have noticed, the show is taking a different turn this morning. We're having two big story segments. And for the second big story segment, we'll be talking about, we're focusing on the Nigerian government's regulation of press freedom. As we know, May 3rd every year is marked as the World Press Freedom Day, and it is commemorated as a reminder to governments of the need to respect their commitment to press freedom. It is also a day of reflection among media professionals about issues of press freedom and professional ethics. The day also seeks support from media organizations which are targets for the restraint or abolition of press freedom. It is also a day of remembrance for those journalists who lost their lives in the pursuit of the truth. The theme of this year's World Press Freedom Day is information as a public good. It underlines the importance of verified and reliable information while calling for attention to the essential role of free and professional journalists in producing and disseminating this information, tackling misinformation as well as other harmful content. It also serves as a call to affirm the importance of cherishing information as a public good and exploring what can be done in the production, distribution, and reception of content to strengthen journalism and to promote transparency. Media outlets in Nigeria are no strangers to restriction of information, gagging, and outright clampdown. The conversation for today, however, x-rays the government's regulation of press freedom in Nigeria and whether there has been any improvement over the years. Joining us to discuss more on this is Mr. Ochiaka Ugu. He is the Secretary of Council of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Federal Capital Territory, that's the FCT chapter. You're welcome to the show, Mr. Ochiaka.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so looking at press freedom, right, and a lot of media professional practitioners like you in Nigeria would literally say there's no press freedom in Nigeria. Are you also of that opinion?
Well, let me just start from the background.
Okay.
Media freedom has been a very contentious issue. I can say it started with the newspaper ordinance of 1903, when the colonial masters started seeing newspaper as a tool of maybe repression or challenging the authorities. So they invoked that newspaper ordinance to control what goes in the media and what people imbibe, so as to maybe have a control of the environment. Okay. So the thing continued till the present day because government on it so must protect itself and whatever. But I'll tell you, in the years, it has improved. Okay. Media freedom has improved. Like the ranking of Reporters Without Borders last year, released in July last year, 2020, that is 2020, Nigeria was placed 115 over 180 countries in that. So I can say it's improving, but we have not reached the Eldorado.
Okay.
How would you rate government intervention in terms of, the press freedom or media operations? Do you think there's some sort of interference, some sort of gridlock?
Certainly. You can't rule it out. Every government would like to gag the media, but it is now left for citizenry to resist it at all cost. Look at the social media bill. It is it's just to pigeonhole the press, thereby maybe for a government to control what you give out to people. And don't forget that in a democracy, informed citizenry is very, very key. Because if they're informed, it will help them to articulate issues. It will even help them to participate in the governance. So government at every part of the world will always like to make sure to control the media, because the media informs the public and also holds government accountable for the people. So it is natural. There was always like to gag the media, but I will tell you that we, like the social media bill, the NUJ as a body, we resisted it. We said no, we don't want it. If anything should happen, if anybody should decide what is falsehood or what is hate speech, the court should do that, and not just a single man. Okay. It is unacceptable for us.
Okay.
Yes.
But earlier on, you said that there's been quite, an improvement in freedom of the press in Nigeria.
Yes.
But a lot of people would actually say freedom of the press has reduced because over time, I think it was even last week, we saw, circular banning particular, media organization for granting interviews to because we're looking at the issue of insecurity in Nigeria, and they were trying to help out with that, and then they were gagged. So that has happened over time. We see journalists being imprisoned for doing their job, for trying to tell the truth. But you said there have been improvements. So what's the lapses in that? Is that an increase or a decrease?
Thank you very much. You know, during the Abacha era, let me just oppose it with what happened in Decree 2 of Muhammad Buhari when he was military head of state, and during the Abacha era. Maybe you just publish something, but the junta will clamp you in the jail without even trying. I can stay for 5 years, but it doesn't happen now. That is what I'm saying. It's not that it has just maybe we have reached that I don't know, but there is an improvement over the years. That is what I'm saying. But not that totally that the freedom of press has just is now maybe totally that is. We have achieved maybe 100% freedom of press. No, there is no way. I think that we are coming, and maybe the government is coming, but I believe there must be a meeting point. You are getting, like lately, I knew some journalists were also arrested, but the court freed them, and the government respected the rule of law. And but during the military era, you can't even think of that. So that is, I'm just comparing with what was obtainable before now. Not that we have reached that, no, we have not.
But should we be saying stuff like that in a democratic role? Because you're talking about the military. We know that the military can literally just do whatever they want. I mean, it's the military. But it's a democratic government now, democratic role. Freedom should be what the mantra, right? So should we be still seeing stuff like this happening at a time like this?
Okay, let me tell you, the freedom of press is the first feature of democracy, anywhere, everywhere. But the problem is that government cannot do even without media, but no government can tolerate an irresponsible media. No government can tolerate an irresponsible media.
Regardless whether it's a democratic government
or whether it's democratic government or not. Section 22 of Nigeria Constitution gives us the right to hold government government accountable for the people. But you know, everywhere, anywhere, freedom comes with responsibility. You must be responsible. You must know what you are putting out for people to imbibe. You must also confirm the source of your story. I'm not saying that government has just been right all time and everywhere. You're getting. But what I'm saying is that the government of the day must also protect itself. But I will tell you that they are not the freedom of press. We have not achieved that. We have not reached that end. That we just to say that the freedom of press has just come to stay, or we have achieved it to 100%. But I will tell you that I believe with passage of time, and with also interaction and dialogue and conversation around this area, we must reach to that.
We've been having these dialogues, we've been having this conversation. So is it ever possible that we achieve total freedom, void of interference from the government or any external force?
Okay, let me say this. Like national security, when you bring it in, they will tell you maybe you are infringing on national security because of your reportage. But you know, no nation would like to undermine its national security, because you and I need this country to operate. But the problem is, let the courts always determine what is infringement on national security. Whether there's not a single person sitting somewhere. You're getting me? So what we are asking is this: let there be enabling environment. Let there be that laws or an act of parliament. You are getting me? And National Assembly, in their own wisdom, enacting a law and saying, okay, this thing is this. Then if I'm found wanting on this, let us go to the court of law and test the veracity of whoever is claiming, like the imposition of 5 million naira on maybe containing social media bill. We are totally against this. How can one man sit in a place and also determine whether this thing is wrong, and also give her the penalty? It's not done anywhere in the world. You are getting me? So what we are saying, we are not saying that we should just be allowed to be. There must be measures, but that measures must be set out by the law of the land, and not one person sitting one place deciding who gets what and how.
Yes, because when you mentioned responsible media the other time, I was going to ask, like, who determines what's right and what's wrong? Who says whether it's responsible?
It's the judiciary that will say you are responsible or not, and not one man sitting one place and saying, no, this man is not. No, it's wrong. Let us go to court and test the veracity. If I'm not responsible, then let the court punish me according to the law of the land.
Okay, so how do we go from where we are now to this place you're talking about? Because I don't know that we're still having cases of maybe the union or somebody saying, look, we can't tolerate this. This is against the government. And the Nigerians are like, wait, these people are just telling the truth. So what's against the government? What is the issue of national security here? So how do we go from here, where we are now, to this point where you're talking about?
No, what you do is that there must be because this place has become a marketplace of opinion. People must bring their opinion and everything. Then we put it together. We now know. But like what I said, it must be an act of parliament. It is not about one man enacting a law. Then we'll sit together. We'll know what is, okay, this is now set out. And if A does this, then we'll go to court. Or we do this, then the A can now go to court. Or no, we'll first of all go to court. Because if they impose that punishment on you, the burden of proof will be on you, a journalist. Maybe you must have suffered like 5 years before the court will now prove you right or whatever. Right. And the suffering you have encountered, what happens to it? Changed. So the burden of proof should be on them, on the court. Okay, this guy did this, then take him to court. Okay, he sent out maybe disinformation or infodemic, because we are fighting infodemic, because infodemic has done a lot of things. Look at how some people died during Ebola, because some people passed useless message that like salt can cure Ebola.
People say drinking salt
anyhow, and some of them were diabetic and they died because of infodemic. So all these things, if it is proven that you did that and you go to court and court now convicted you based on the evidence available to them, fine and good. You go in and suffer for it. And that is why I said no government can tolerate irresponsible media, because they have a duty also to protect its citizens.
Okay. All right, off the books, this one has always been in my head. Do you think that the situation of, press freedom and all of that has affected, journalism in Nigeria? True journalism in Nigeria?
No, certainly. Because there are cases where some media houses were, fined for what somebody, like I will come here and say something and you have to suffer for it. Why should you suffer for it? I should be the one to suffer for it.
Because you're giving you a platform.
Yes, because you're not controlling my mind. You
okay.
called me here because you believe I'm sane and I'm going to speak on sound mind. And that is why you brought me here. So I should be the one suffering it, and not mediums suffering what somebody said. I remember in the news, and before you know it, those because of that fine, some of them became very, very afraid, because paying such fine doesn't go well, because some mediums are even struggling with paying salaries. So when you post that kind of media, it's just like telling them, okay, close shop. You're getting me, and others will now send signal to others, and that is why we are saying, and this is the hindrances we are having. I said it is wrong. When such a thing happens, take them to court. Let them court now find them and now know what to do, and not one man staying somewhere and say, okay, you must pay this and what.
Okay. All right. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Mr. Ochaka. It's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom.
And with that, it's a wrap on the conversation this morning. Thank you for joining us on the show today. The conversation continues tomorrow. But before then, remember to follow TOS TV Network across all social media platforms. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also subscribe to TOS TV Network on YouTube so you do not miss out on anything. Also, you can stream the conversation on www.tostvnetwork.com. My name is Adesuwa Osuyi.
And I am Merciful Ajinamo. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.